Apple rose on negative news. The indexes did something we haven't seen since September 9th. What drove the markets today and what to expect with GDP tomorrow at 8:30. So before we get into Apple and some of the other ideas out there and what happened today, let's talk about the driving force behind it. So what happened today is, here's the US dollar. And you can see this high right here, this black line going straight across. Now that US dollar all of a sudden in here fell down. This little black line is the line it dropped to. That's because the Bank of England came out and said that they're going to go out there and buy bonds. There's several reasons that they're speculating on why that's going to happen. The bottom line is when they buy bonds, that is going to drive down the US dollar. If the US dollar drives down, what's going to happen is you're going to see a rise, and that is our orange line. We're going to see a rise in the S&P in equities. So what you had is you had a declining dollar today, and that gave us a rise in equities. That rise in equities is also followed by people buying the 10-year. Why are they buying the 10-year? Because they know that if the Bank of England is driving rates down, it's going to drive rates down globally by acquisition. The longer that the dollar drops, bonds are going to rally. The more that bonds rally and can be used as a hedge as well, you're also going to see US equity prices go up. It makes US equities more attractive when the dollar drops. Now that we understand what the driving force is, we can look at the market, look at what transpired today, and figure out what we're going to do about it. Apple's news to me was not ideal. And what we saw today is we saw a gap down. This move up is all predicated upon one thing. It's predicated upon the move that I just showed you with the dollar. It's not predicated on everyone wanting to be an Apple. Also, you have GDP tomorrow at 8:30. That is going to be very widely watched. If you remember what happened with CPI and how we came in, GDP tomorrow can be the same way. It made it very difficult to buy trades and consider holding them overnight. At least it did for me because of the risk. I'd rather not be there and miss it than be there and have what happened on CPI. That's just very simply the way that I trade. Everybody trades differently. You should trade how it works for you. Here you are, here's your level, and we flipped it. Does that mean we're out of the woods? I don't know. I don't have an answer for you. To me, this break, this H, this wasn't enough pain, and I really think it's because of the Bank of England and what they did. So for me, I'm not jumping into any of these kinds of names yet. Now, we're going to talk about the indexes in a moment, but when you see these kinds of movements, and you have to pay attention to it, but you also have to pay attention to the wild moves. For example, we have NVIDIA that is up 20-something points today, right? From where we closed. Here you closed right at, let's see, 223. Now you're at 245. Now, when you see things like this, you need to pay attention to it because why are we doing that? Why all of a sudden does everybody have to be in here? Well, for me, this is probably short covering more than anything. People are getting squeezed. Is that something that I want to look at? Do I want to be in this and then see how this is going to play out? And the answer is not right here. No, this is something we were actually in the newsletter before, link in description for the newsletter. And we took a profit on $8 of it. And then we just moved the stop to break even and tried to stay in there. And that worked out perfectly because it kept us in here when we got to that level right here. And then we got undercut and that was it. And we were out. So we didn't go for a ride. I'm going to just stress that in this kind of environment, you want to sell into your rips. You're going to really have to focus on, is the dollar going to drop tomorrow? The symbol's DXY. You might want to watch it and just see how that plays out. I see a lot of stocks out there that look okay, but you are hitting some key levels here. And I think that you should just kind of pay attention to that. So let's just kind of walk through a couple of these. You are breaking down here. Here's your 3-day, here's your 5, and you are above it. And you look like you're going to cross, which is great, right? But at the same time, I have to worry about my 8-day that's up here, and I'm right into a resistance point. That's not going to make me warm and fuzzy. Caveat, I am short Tesla. I'm not really feeling warm and fuzzy that I have to run out here and buy this right now. I'm looking at the market and try to figure out what is the best move, what makes the most sense. It's one big trade right now, and you can see that. It wasn't Apple today that got us. It wasn't NVIDIA that came out with earnings. It was Bank of England doing something. Now, if you went to bed last night and woke up this morning and knew the Apple news, you did not have Bank of England on your bingo card. So do yourself a favor. Do not try to build a system around what happened today. It's a macro event. They're going to happen. Government intervention is going to always happen, and it's always going to throw a monkey wrench into what we think is going to happen. Doesn't mean that you change. Just watch how it acts. Is it possible that we move here? Yes, it's very possible. If you take a look at what's going on here, here's a 5 and a 3 crossing. But here we are again, we're rejecting at the 8-day. Now, I did say that I would show you something. I'm going to keep this very short and sweet. And I just want people to understand where you are and what's going on out there. So this is the 8-day that I highlighted, it's in purple. So you break the 3, you break the 5, you get to the 8, you reject, okay? That's August 26th. Once we cleared it, we had 2 days of what we'll refer to as good trading, right? Or we're actually in an uptrend before some news came out or some event, right? So here we are, and we know what this event was, CPI. Once you broke the 8, that was it. You tried to rally back onto that 8 when? During the Fed meeting, and what happened? Collapsed. Guess where you are today, right? Going into GDP. So I'm just going to suggest that I have no idea what GDP is going to be. I can't imagine that it's going to be good, but then if someone told me that consumer confidence was going to be 108 versus 104, I wouldn't have believed them. So we have to see what that number is. If it shows an overheated economy, they're going to raise rates more. That's going to be a problem for us. Now let's just take a look at the SPY while I'm talking about this. See, same thing, 3, 5, here's your 8. Now you don't have it as blatantly here, but it's definitely something that we have to focus on. These huge sells at the end of the day were kind of a red flag, but people don't want the risk. They did well today, and now they want to take their profits. What I would simply suggest is wait and see how this number comes out and then make more informed decisions. Friday morning, you have PCE at 8:30. You're going to have to pay attention to that as well. Once we're through this, we're through it. Then we're at the end of the quarter, end of the month, and then we're going to roll right into fourth quarter. Now, when you roll in the fourth quarter, you're in great shape, right? Because everything changes. Now, we broke the 5-day right here on the VIX, and I think that's somewhat pertinent. Getting under 30 would be great. So just keep this in mind. This is great news, what happened today. We just need to see the dollars I showed keep selling down, and we need to see these in action after GDP, after the PCE number, and then we can make a more informed decision. The last thing you want to do is be out of position going into GDP or PCE, because you're going to have so much gap risk, it's just not worth it. So that's it. As far as ideas, I thought the macro was much better today. Make sure you subscribe to the channel because I'm going to do a lot of macro and fundamental this Saturday, and you're going to want to see this, and you're going to want to be notified when this comes out because it's going to be very timely. The trading room is open, I believe, for another 4 days, and there will be a link up here in the top right corner. Have a great night, everybody. Trade to win tomorrow.